Mr. Mayor, we're at 5:30.
Great, thank you. And welcome everyone to the special meeting on Monday evening, September 20th. I will now call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, can you please call roll?
With pleasure, Mayor. Councilmember Goethals?
Here.
Councilmember Pappen?
Here.
Councilmember Lee?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Bonilla?
Here.
Mayor Rodriguez?
Here. Due to the health orders in place at this time, we are holding meetings remotely. Information on how to provide public comment is explained at the bottom of each published agenda. When public comment is announced for the item you wish to comment on, when signed the Zoom, use the raise your hand feature and you will be called upon at the appropriate time. If calling in via phone, press *9 to raise your hand and then *6 to unmute yourself. And these options for public comment will remain available until I close the public comment period for that specific item. All right, we have 3 items on the agenda today, and the first 2 are in a closed session, and they are conference with legal counsel pending litigation, and the second one is conference with legal counsel anticipated litigation. So I'm gonna give anybody in the audience, which I don't see anybody there, but in case anybody wanted to speak on these matters before we go into closed session, now would be the time to raise your hand or log in. Okay, I'm not seeing any. So I'm going to close public comment and we will return for the third item, which is Central Park Playground Preferred Alternative Design after we finish these closed session items. All right, I'll see everybody in the closed session.
Recording stopped.
Abridged version of the presentation.
Great, thank you.
So thank you, Drew, and members
Recording in progress.
Members of the City Council. We will try and do an abbreviated version. I think many of you may have gotten a sneak peek of our playground a couple weeks ago. It was on the front page of the Daily Journal. So we have with us tonight our consultant from RRM, who will briefly go through the design. And then if you have any questions, please feel free to ask, and then we'll take comments at the end. So Leif, it's all yours.
Thank you, Sheila. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, you can.
Perfect. Thanks for having me, Mayor Rodriguez, council members. I'm going to move at a brisk pace. This is an abbreviated version of the presentation we gave to the Parks and Rec Commission recently. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Thank you. So I know some of you have been involved in this all the way back to when we did the master plan. It started in 2014 and led to the ultimate adoption in 2018. And then since then, we've been moving at a sort of a slower pace because of the COVID curveball. But you can see the timeline on the bottom of your screen there is the process we've gone through until this point with multiple rounds of community outreach and design iterations. That's just a refresher on the master plan that council adopted in 2018. And the area of focus is the playground, which is nestled up against El Camino at the bottom of the screen there. There it is there. It's about a 2-acre site. And that sort of semicircular pathway that you see going around it will essentially remain. So you'll see that in the concepts coming up. Just a few character photos to refresh your memory. I know it's very familiar to all of you. We've had a number of outreach events that we had to get creative with the pandemic health guidelines, but we ended up able to have 2 workshops in person in the park and 1 in-person event at an after-school program with a group of school children. And then we followed up with several online efforts and ended up getting about 250 or more pieces of input, not necessarily unique. We know people were repeat visitors at events, but still a good amount of input. That resulted early on in 2 alternatives that we came up with for sharing and presentation and input. The first one was, this is a rendering of it, and it was really evocative of the history of the coal estate. The idea here was to make a large playhouse structure that was inspired by the old coal residence. You can see that in the middle there. And there's a little playhouses that are like the carriage house, the water tower, and whimsical sculptures similar to the couple of bronze sculptures you have in the park today. Second one was this notion of adventure village, which really was aimed at taking advantage of the beautiful tree canopy that you have in the park and play off that idea and this natural materials and adventure kind of feel. So after all that, we went back to the community, and there was an overwhelming preference for the adventure village concept, and that's what I'm going to run through tonight for you. This is a view of it. Just quickly, if it looks a bit bleak, that's because we've illustrated it without all the existing trees, because a lot of this takes place underneath the canopies. That's the existing tree canopy you can't see that would remain. And that's really going to give the playground its character. So let me see. If let me get the pointer. So if you approach the playground from the community centre, where many people would, and the parking structure, you would probably enter here on this new pathway. There's picnicking, more picnicking than you have today in and around the trees. There's group picnicking here. You'd come in to this node here. On the left is the sort of tiny younger children's area, 2 to 5-year-olds. This enchanted forest walk. Everything's small scale and sort of very inspired by sort of fairy tales and magical forests. You walk along this meandering path, you pass a friendly snake in a sandbox, you pass some boulders with bubbling water, you pass a little slide and this large bird's nest sculpture that you can climb inside of and role play. There's a little willow thicket hut. There's another little playhouse and sort of a fairy ring of mushrooms or toadstools that could be for story time or an outdoor class setting or simply balancing and having fun. And then there's a snail sculpture, which the concept there was to have this big snail, but then embedded throughout the area are many more snails that are hidden in the design, and that it's a treasure hunt concept where children would have to go and find all the snails as they go. Right here is a new restroom that's replacing the existing one. So the existing one gets demolished and rebuilt over on this side of the playground, which has a better proximity to the rest of the park for other events. So it would be a dual use, and it also gets it away from being buried in the playground and better visibility. We move into this area, looking at the times. This is the sort of signature area. This is for the bigger kids, and it's centered around these 2 sort of elevated features. This is an elevated platform, and this is a mound with these whimsical wooden towers. So it's getting kids up off the ground and a bit of a unique experience in that respect. That's all accessed from this boardwalk that works its way up from ground level up sort of into the tree canopies. So it's like a raised tree walk, if you will. That's why it has this peculiar shape, because it's going in and around the existing trees. There's slides coming off it. You could have snacks up here. You can get down to the train ride. Some other things, there's a zip line, there's a large swing zone. There's all sorts of other fun things scattered around here. And then this area is a picnic area, a large picnic shelter that could be programmed for parties, birthday parties, or just first come, first serve. This is a blow-up of the accessibility. This, as I mentioned, this red line really shows how you could, someone in a wheelchair could get all the way up to this top level and have a similar experience to other children, which is a really powerful element of the design. And then the dots are accessible pieces of equipment, so it makes it as inclusive as we can. These are some sort of character images just to show the style and the materials, lots of wood to reflect that sort of forest feel. You can see at top left is the concept of the canopy walk. Some other very nature-based features that we would have scattered throughout to give it its real strong forest character. This is a rendering of the central area, so you can see how those two mounds are built up, and then there's activities in and under and around, different experiences. You can roll down the synthetic grass slope, you can climb the rock wall, and there's many, many opportunities for imaginative play throughout. And then this is the tiny kids area, where you can see how it's much smaller scale, perfect for toddlers, lots of seating for parents and caregivers, and taking advantage. This is the existing, there's a huge fig tree right in the middle that's kind of all wrapped around. After we get through this phase of concept review and approval, our next step will be to put a technical sort of layer on top of the concept and start getting ready to move into construction documents at some point, hopefully next year. Sheila can talk to that. We're in the process of doing cost estimating on the concept, and that's it. I know that was lightning speed, but I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone has any.
Thank you. Councilmember Goethals, questions?
Really a question for Sheila. I mean, I don't know if you feel like we're going too quickly and maybe we need to slow it down and go back out for more feedback from the public, do more outreach.
You know, I think we got a lot of public outreach, both at the first time that we went out was in 2019 before COVID, and then the most recent workshops that we did were here pretty recent. And I think the consensus was pretty consistent in terms of people liked this kind of feel. And so, I mean, unless the council feels as though we need to, I think that we've, you know, we took the concepts down to our LEAP program when they were meeting at King Center. So we had a good group of kids to take a look at it, and they were very excited about this one.
I love it. It looks great.
Thanks.
Deputy Mayor Bonilla, questions?
Yeah, I have two questions. In the new restroom area, are we going to have kid-sized facilities for them in there? Top-sized?
You know, we haven't gotten to the design yet on the restrooms, Rick, but I think that's a really good idea to keep in mind in terms of we're doing that, particularly because it will be serving the playground area. Right.
Okay, good. Thank you. The other thing is we do have some unique trees in the park, and I think I saw a picture of at least that one. Are we seeking to preserve all of the, I guess they're non-native trees. I forget the word that was used to describe them in the verbiage that I read, but we're seeking to save all those trees.
I think that's our goal, is to preserve all of the trees that are preservable. We obviously don't want to leave trees that look like they're unhealthy or struggling. So that's the goal. And in fact, that was certainly one of the comments from the Park and Recreation Commission, to make sure that we include our arborists very early in the process as we're designing and putting together the construction documents.
That's good. Thank you. Those are my questions.
Councilmember Lee.
I really like that idea of having kid-sized toilets, and I guess having served on the Park and Rec Commission, I just wanted to raise a couple of questions. I know that it was, I've heard from a lot of parents that having sort of a more enclosed space for the youth playground is important, and I was just wondering how that's been incorporated.
So Leaf didn't mention it in his presentation, but the entire play area has a short 3-foot fence around it. And so both the Todd area as well as the children's area will be completely enclosed.
That's wonderful. And then I didn't get a lot of detail about the water feature. Having a splash pad on this side of El Camino would be such an amazing asset to the community. It's such a draw for our community parks. And I wondered how much, how the water feature will be designed, and will it be designed in a way that kids can actually splash around, and will it be, I see that it's sort of placed more towards the younger kids area, and I'm wondering if it's, if that will limit access for older kids, or what was the thinking behind that placement?
So we've not fully conceptualized the water feature yet. I will say that we did not anticipate a splash pad per se where kids could run through it. One of the main reasons is cost. With the recycling requirements right now, we really have to put in a filtration system that's very similar to a swimming pool in terms of tanks and filtration and ultraviolet lights and chlorination. And that gets to be relatively expensive. So our concept idea at this point was not a splash pad. And we're still kind of working through what that looks like, both from a design standpoint as well as from a cost standpoint.
Okay. Well, I definitely appreciate the cost, and also just, summers are getting hotter, and it would be so wonderful for families to have another place on this side to venture and get wet, especially because a lot of the pools are closing early, and Septembers are getting hotter. And then my last question was really trying to understand if there's a sand feature. Is there a sandbox in the design?
So Leaf, I'll turn that back to you. But I think that we have used a variety of surfacing based upon what is best for the area. So around some of the large play area, we're going to have some sort of poured in place surface, particularly for accessibility. Part of it will be some of the synthetic turf. Part of it will be sand. And then part of it will be fiber. But if there is a specific sand play area, Leaf, if you can just maybe point that out on this map.
I can on this one. This is all sand underneath here.
What's the other surface there on the adjoining area?
This is going to be a combination of loose fill, like a engineered wood fiber, or poured in place, which is the more of the rubberized surfacing you see, and that'll be determined. It'll be a balance of cost and accessibility.
Okay, and the green area on the right, is that a turf kind of area?
That's a synthetic grass slope for sliding and somersaults and that type of thing.
Okay, good. Thank you. Sorry for interrupting you.
That's okay. I can show you the other area. This is the tiny kids area, and this is sand here as well. So there's 2 isolated sand areas in each zone.
It looks great.
Deputy Mayor Bonilla.
Yeah, I just wanted to, one very quick thing. When I was reading through the materials, I noticed it was talking about the different workshops and the online survey and so forth. And it describes the overwhelming majority of children and adults. And we've run into this recently where these kind of descriptors are used. I think if you're going to use that kind of descriptor, you should give us some numbers so we can discern what maybe what overwhelming is, or just not use that. You can just say the majority.
Okay, Councilmember Pappen, questions before we get to public comment?
One quick question. Are there two uncovered slides that I see? Slides? There's one just near number 20, is that right? And one up above near number 2?
That's the existing trees. So if that
No. Is there an uncovered slide though, just below number 20? Go towards El Camino, right there. Is that an uncovered slide?
Yes, that's a flat open slide. Yeah.
Good. I'm putting in for the uncovered slides. They were endless hours of entertainment to try to go up them the wrong way, which builds all kinds of skills. So I just wanted to, I thought they were there, but I was looking because the rest were sort of tubular and covered and all that good stuff. So.
And I support that sentiment also. Thank you, Diane.
Okay, I'd like to just quickly open up public comment in case our one attendee wants to comment on this. And okay, I'm not seeing any raised hands, so I'm going to close public comments. For final quick comments for this presentation, who'd like to kick things off? Already heard a lot of. All right, I'll kick things off. I love it. When I look at a playground design and I want to immediately go play there, I think that's a sign of a great playground. And I'm so happy we chose this one because this one looks like it's going to be a regional draw, a playground that not only San Mateans, but everybody's going to want to just go play and be around and experience our amazing park. Deputy Mayor Bonilla.
Yeah, thank you. I actually have a comment, but first a question. There was reference also in the printed material to that some of the existing equipment there was 50 years old. Do we expect this equipment to last that long too?
Leaf can weigh in on that. Based upon our most recent experience with the types of playgrounds that they're building today, I would say that we can expect somewhere between 20 and 25 years. And what I was referring to equipment that was 50 years old, it's primarily the metal pieces that are at the south end of the park, the climbing apparatus and the jungle gyms and those kind of things.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. I just want to say I support it too. We've been at this so long and we do need to make the improvements there. And if the parents and kids are having fun with this whole process, I'm sure it'll be a great addition to Central Park. So thank you.
Councilmember Lee.
I am so excited about the theme. It strikes me as very compatible with the natural beauty of the park. And I'm really happy to see some of these exciting new features incorporated into the playgrounds, like the zip line and more seating and picnic areas for all the caretakers, and that, and designing a playground that is actually going to be accessible and inclusive to all members of the public is really important. I want to emphasize my strong support for a more robust water feature. If we can make that happen, if that's at all feasible, I think that's money well spent, and it will enhance this already wonderful design. So I hope we can look a little closer at that.
Councilmember Pappen.
Yeah, I'm crazy about it. And I think one of the things that I like most about it is that it evokes creativity. There are so many different things to choose from that can draw out a particular child's creativity with how they want to play, whatever their ability. And so for me, I think it fires on all cylinders and I'm really excited about it. I look forward to seeing the cost and let's see if we can make it happen.
Deputy Mayor Bonilla.
Yeah, quickly, just one last thing. I noticed that there's proposed a water table in the project, which is, well, I guess where kids will play with water and things on a table. Is that water treated, Sheila, the way that you described other treatment requirements would be?
So that's really a good question, but we're still talking actually right now with Cal Water on how much water needs to actually flow through a feature before it has to be completely recycled. So we're still finding out that information at this point.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Awesome. Just awesome. That's all I got to tell you.
Totally agree. All right. Did you get enough feedback from us? Thank you so much for going at a fast pace, but I think we have a consensus that we really appreciate your work on this, and we're very excited. We want to figure out how we can get this built soon.
Great.
As soon as we can.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your
Thank you all.
comments.
All right. All right. This meeting's adjourned. We'll get back to our regular meeting right now.
Mr. Mayor, I'll